Well, Bill, I thought I'd take you on a little tour and bring back some memories of when we were just little boys. I'm turning off Calhoun Street onto Highland Avenue, and we spent a lot of time up and down this road. This is a home of Bob and Will and Betty Brewer, and we have spent many hours playing football in this front yard. And there's that apartment complex, and still there. Well, this is a library on Elm Street, and Ms. Moore used to live right here, the librarian. Of course, that home's been torn down. We played up and down this road many hours, riding bikes and walking and whatever. On the left here is an apartment complex. The only person I ever remember living in here was a girl named Polly Donegan. As I remember, she was a real pretty girl. And then over here was a young guy named Coley Hamrick. His dad was a state trooper. They eventually moved to Warner Robins, but we played with him in the neighborhood quite often. This home was where Susan Bracewell lived when we were growing up. And of course, that's where I grew up. And this is where, I don't know, I guess I first met you when you lived in this house on Highland. We were just tykes at the time. And there's where Mark Cooper lived. Surely not kept up like when you and Bonnie lived there. Howard Cordell lived on the corner house right there. Continuing on down Highland, crossing over Mimosa. I don't recall many people lived on Mimosa. But I do remember Mr. Tom Stewart, our principal, and Karen, who was in our class, lived there. Mr. John Ross, who was the principal of the elementary school, lived in this house. Well, at the stop sign here is Lassiter Street, and right up there is where Mercer Brothers was. I'm gonna hang a right and go down to the Little League ballpark, and we've got a lot of memories there. Of course, there's Moore Street Elementary School, and there's the Little League field. That building has been there since we were kids. They used to keep score of the game sitting up in that box. And now here's the Babe Ruth field, where we played when we were 15 years old. I think 13, 14, and 15. Well, you'll know where I am now, coming back up on one of your other homes that you lived in. Of course, the home has already been demolished. It's just a lot there. You know, I mentioned earlier about your home. I first met you on Highland Avenue. That wasn't the case. The first time we met, you lived on Rutland Drive. Then y'all moved to Highland Avenue, and then from Highland Avenue, you moved to Country Club Road, and then from Country Club Road, you moved out here on, is it Wood Street, Wood Lane? Wood Street. But anyway, you moved around about 4 times during the time we knew one another. I vaguely remember going to your home on Rutland Drive. God, we must have been about 5 years old at that time. I'm traveling down Woodrow right now. This was the florist where Doug Hall, Speck Hall's parents, had for many years. And at one time, this was Jep and Marie Craig's house. Of course, it wasn't painted green at that time. Still on Woodrow. And this is where Stanley and John Redeemer lived, Stanley Johnson. Don't remember a lot of houses here other than, I remember when Prudy Walker, who used to live on Duncan Street, moved here. Her husband at the time was a state patrolman. This home right above is where Danny and Lavonia Stanley lived. And of course, we all grew up in the same neighborhood. That's where Charlotte Wilson lived. And then right up here on the corner was a young classmate named Esther Roach. While I'm going back down Duncan Street, you can see how they've paved it. A lot better than it was when we were growing up. This little house over here with a slanted roof, a little greenhouse, that's where Coach Travis Davis lived when he was coaching us in football. Well, I'm coming up to the back of my house. Of course, there's where Mrs. Page's kindergarten used to be. I think y'all went there. I don't think it was an accredited kindergarten, but y'all tried. And you know where this is. Wow. Building is still there. It's your dad's laundromat. A lot of memories there. And right up here on the right, it was where Danny Kemp lived. He lived to the right of Mark Cooper. So Danny lived there. And in this house was Bill and Kay Denny. Don't remember if you remember them. And Brenda Gilter's grandmother lived in this house on the corner. Oh well, it wasn't a very professionally done video, but hopefully it'll bring back some memories.